This tissue is the femur from a monkey and was decalcified and then sectioned so that you can see its soft components, cells, proteins, and ordinary connective tissue. This is the bright orange-pink ring of bone with periosteum on the outside and the shrunken bone marrow within. The inner surface of the bone will be lined by very flattened osteoblasts of the endosteum. Ignore these artifactual folds in the section. The bone tissue is made up of a series of parallel sheets called lamellae. Osteocytes are visible as small, spidery-like cells between the lamellae. In the outer part of the bone here, the lamellae are circumferential. That is, they extend around the entire circumference of the bone. These were laid down, one after another, under the periosteum. Bluish lines between some of the lamellae make them particularly obvious. These lines represent sites or times during bone deposition at which extra amounts of ground substance were secreted when the bone was being laid down. The larger white spaces in the bone tissue are around blood vessels. These Haversian canals run longitudinally in a long bone such as a femur, so you see them here in transverse section. In the outer part of the bone, the blood vessels lie between circumferential lamellae and were incorporated from the periosteum as new lamellae were deposited. In the inner, older part of the bone, the Haversian canals are surrounded by a series of circular lamellae. These lamellae, together with the Haversian canal in them, constitutes an Haversian system, or more commonly called an osteon. These are a result of remodelling. The fact that most of the bone in this section has not been modified by remodelling suggests that this bone came from a young monkey. Almost all of the bone in your femur has been remodelled into Haversian systems. The tissue within the canals is generally poorly preserved. However, each will contain a tiny arteriole and a venule and will be lined by flattened osteoblasts. The many smaller blank spaces around the Haversian canals are lacunae for osteocytes. In most cases, the cells themselves were washed out when the section was prepared. This section was taken from near the end of the femur where large ligaments were inserted. The ends of their collagen fibres extend deep into the bone for secure attachment. Such embedded fibres from a ligament or a tendon are called Sharpey's fibres. The term applies only to the end portions of collagen fibres that are embedded into the bone. In parts of the bone you can see the cross-sections of these collagen bundles as small, red, circular structures about the size of the osteocyte lacunae. The bundles run through the bone and have shrunk during fixation, so that one sees the lacuna as a white halo around them. Sharpey's fibres also anchor the periosteum to the surface of the bone. Now, let me direct your attention to the layer of connective tissue on the outside of the bone, between it and some skeletal muscle over here. This is the periosteum, consisting of two separate layers. The obvious outer fibrous layer is really no more than a typical adventitia of dense, irregular connective tissue, and in this case it's quite vascular. The inner osteogenic layer is composed of a single layer of osteoblasts, with a scattering of indistinguishable osteoprogenitor cells external to them. These osteoblasts are really just visible by their very flat nuclei on the surface of the bone, underneath the coarse collagen bundles of the fibrous layer. The osteogenic layer of the periosteum is crucial for the growth of the bone because bone, unlike cartilage, can grow only by apposition at the surface. That surface may be on the outside of the bone, or on an inner surface, or even on the surface inside an eversion canal. But bone can only grow on a surface. When osteoblasts actively deposit bone, they're numerous, plump, and easily seen, as I'll show you in some of the later sections. Here, where bone growth has greatly slowed or stopped, the quiescent osteoblasts have reverted to a very flattened condition and really almost absent or certainly very hard to see.